was hoping you could take me through the very first third down. They split McCaffrey out. It was a Bosa sack, and you seemed to point something out to Jimmy Ward, and then you guys had lockdown coverage.
So when they got a non-athlete outside and not anything, that's what we call non-receivers. So tight end, running back, but especially McCaffrey, he's coming under right now. And once he comes under, Jimmy's usually supposed to have a buzz coverage and like buzz and hinge and kind of let McCaffrey go, but we knew the play, so he just locked on to McCaffrey. That's his first read. That's his immediate read. Once he eliminates him, it's probably going to be a sack. And so we just communicated that.
Thanks.
What are your impressions of Murray?
He's got a good arm. He's got great vision. He can read the whole field. He does a great job of obviously extending the plays and getting out of trouble. He takes his shots to run it when he gets a chance. But a lot of times he scrambles just to find a guy and make a play down the field. He's done a good job in both the run game, like keepers, and in the pass game.
So is he, I guess, mature in that sense? So many young rookie quarterbacks who can run like that are running at the first sign of danger. I mean, is he, I guess, mature or a little more advanced?
I'd say he's well coached. I'd say he's well coached and been well coached from an early age, because you can see he's looking downfield. He's keeping his eyes downfield a lot of times. And like you said, a lot of young quarterbacks, they'll start to look at the rush. They'll start to pull their eyes down, especially after a sack or two. He hasn't done that. He's been disciplined in that regard and keeping his eyes downfield and trying to make a play.
You've had the experience of Seattle's fans and how that impacts the actual game. How would you compare that with what you lived on Sunday and you going back and forth with the fans, getting into the game, and how it actually impacts the game?
Well, it has a huge impact on the game. Just in terms of energizing the players and energizing the fans and playing off of one another. I think that we enjoy it as players, and it hypes you up. It hypes you up. Hearing the roar of the crowd, and also it makes it difficult to communicate on the offensive side when people get loud enough, and they started to get loud enough, especially when we were backed up near the end zones.
You've got some starters that will be coming back in the next couple weeks. How much better can this team be with those guys back, but also including the fact that those other guys got valuable experience?
I think it's going to make us a lot better, because it gives us a tremendous amount of depth in terms of guys that we can trust. Obviously coming into the season, once Sean went down, there was questions about who the swing tackle was, and I think you found two guys who can do it. And you wouldn't have known that if Joe and Mike were playing the entire time. You'd still have a lot of questions like, oh, if one of these guys gets hurt, who's going to step in? And I think, excuse me, those questions have been answered. And even with Juice coming back, it gives us even more versatility, because the guys who've had to fill in for Juice are going to be able to be just as versatile. Kyle's going to be able to call the offense as he has with whether Juice is in or not. He can run very similar plays and similar action. Obviously, in the secondary, Emmanuel has been fantastic and been one of the best corners in the league statistically. I think he's given up one catch out of 10 attempts or something like that. And anytime you're playing that well, it shows tremendous depth. And obviously, once Spoon comes back, I don't think you can lose your spot to injury. They'll insert him back, but it gives everybody confidence in what we can do and who we have.
You've been you've let your feelings be known about playing on Thursday nights before, but with a new CBA around the corner, is there a solution in your mind, just given the fact that the league is making a certain amount of money on these Thursday night games?
It'd be for them still not to happen the way they are as is. You know what I mean? If a guy's coming off a Sunday game, and sometimes Sunday night games, to play on Thursday is still just a terrible turnaround. Guys have gotten it done, and obviously guys have gotten hurt during those games. But I don't have a great solution for you. Maybe a bye week after, but that doesn't change how difficult it is going into it. If they could somehow have a bye week before, but that'd be still a long week and a half. So I don't have a solution. It's a difficult problem. Obviously, we'll look to address it in some way with the CBA.
Do you roll your eyes when the league says they care about player safety and insist on having these Thursday night games?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, I roll my eyes when the league talks about player safety and then says, oh, yeah, we'd like to have 17 games or 18 games because they're talking about it both sides of their mouth. And, and somehow they distract the public and say, oh, man, it's good for everybody, but it's really not. It's never good for players to put their bodies on the line for 2 extra games, and that's the problems you run into when you say that. When you say we really care about player safety and we're taking a stand, but hey, go out there and put it out there 2 more times for us for a check. We appreciate you, you know, and that's just the way it is, and that's the way it has been. As a member of the union, you understand that. You sit in the meetings with them, you understand the true feelings about how they feel about things. But you know, you also understand it's a bottom line business, and if saying they care about player safety gets the fans off their backs, then they're going to say it as much as they can.
People are talking about, about Robert Saleh as a potential head coaching candidate. Now, you knew him at a time, you know, when hardly anyone knew his name. Did you see things in him then that, you know, might have told you that a few years later he'd be considered in this light?
I can't say that. I can say that he's been part of some fantastic staffs that have always been really detailed and really specific, and part of putting together really fantastic schemes and preparing players. So I'd say he has the pedigree. I'd say, you know, learning in a room with Gus Bradley and Chris Richard and Ken Norton and all those guys that he's learned from in his career has groomed him and taught him different lessons throughout different times of his life. Obviously, he's been part of great defenses, so he knows how to prepare in big games, you know, in big moments, in division championships and second round playoffs and Super Bowls, and how the preparation changes and how to adjust your scheme to certain during game, both in game and out of game. So I think he has the pedigree for it, and I look forward to whenever he gets that opportunity, he'll deserve it.
There was a go ahead.
Thank you. How have you seen him grow into the defensive coordinator's position?
Oh man, he's a madman. He will work himself to death. Like you give him a day off where he can just work freely. You'll come back and he'll have drawn some really unique things up, and he'll implement them in a very simple fashion and make sure everybody understands them. But you can just understand how much work he's put in, how much detail he puts into everything we do, and how he's thinking about the game. And he has a really cool plan in the way football works in his mind and how everything comes together. You can't help but want to make his vision come to life, and we've done a great job so far, and we hope to continue.
The perception of him early on might have been that he was a system coach. You mentioned his pedigree. He's been around really good coaches, and the question was how much does he do on his own? When did you realize that he's more than that he really is thinking through these things on his own and creating his own defenses?
When I first came here and I realized we were running a totally different system than the system people think we're running. And that's what's so weird about perception versus reality. You know, people are like, oh my God, it's all this Seattle scheme. It's like everybody runs the same stuff when it's really not. That's how you can tell it's lazy reporting, because you're not really watching the film. You're just assuming because he came from that tree that he's running. It's very presumptuous. And we're really running a version of a lot of different schemes. And that's what you run into in this world, is that, you know, it's like, oh my God, these guys all play all man-to-man. Nobody in this league plays more than 50% man-to-man. Nobody, you know, a few teams run more than 58% zone, you know what I mean? So it's really 50-50 just about every team. But he does a great job calling it and being situationally aware of when teams want to take a shot or when teams want to run certain plays. He has a great sheet that he goes through when teams want to be aggressive or teams don't want to be aggressive. And anytime he gets in a middle ground of what he should have called and versus what he went, and it goes bad, like he's like, I knew at this down the distance I should have run this play, and I second guessed myself and I ran something else, but he rarely does that these days.
You've been very outspoken about the NCAA. I wonder if you heard what happened today, the news that broke today. They voted unanimously to allow athletes to benefit at some point from their image and likeness, and what's your take on that?
So they got slapped in the face, and then I was trying to get ahead of it. That's funny. I got nothing. They're trying to find a way that they can regulate it before somebody else takes it out of their hands. I don't know if it changed the legislation that's already out, because if the legislation changes, then it doesn't really matter what the NCAA does. If it's legal, it's legal. So I guess it's just them trying to corral a problem that could really balloon out of control. But it's good, if it's good for the players, it's good for the players. I think it's going to be interesting to see schools not be able to post players like they have been. You can't post highlights of Kyler Murray and Christian McCaffrey just freely without calling them and paying them now, and that's going to change the entire game. You're not going to be just Fox Sports or ESPN or NBC just showing highlights of Notre Dame and this player or that player, or showing commercials like highlighting games without playing these players. And that's good for the players, because now you just show the Notre Dame symbol versus the Ohio State. Nobody wants to see that. That doesn't create any energy or any hype. So if you want to put these players out there like they've been doing, you're going to have to pay them, and that's good for the game. That's good for the players, and I think it's overall it just makes it better.
Couple more guys. Has Larry Fitzgerald forced you to raise your game? How has he impacted your career?
Oh, he's had a tremendous impact on my career, both on the field and off. I'd consider me and Larry pretty good friends, and the way he carries himself, the way he runs his foundation, the way he does things off the field has had a tremendous impact on my career and what I've done with my foundation and what I've done with different things on and off the field, how I carry myself in certain respects. On the field, he's been a tremendous challenge. When I came in, he was probably damn near 10 years in. And obviously incredibly cagey, incredibly talented, but he made me raise my level as a rookie. And just because you have to deal with him every play, and he's going to show you different subtle tricks, subtle moves that nobody else gives you. And he's really good at him, and that's why he's still getting catches at, what is he now, 35, 34? And he always makes you be on it. You got to study every tendency, every split, every head jerk, every knee jerk. He even runs his corner routes a certain way. And you just have to be aware of where he is on the field at all times, as long as he's playing, because he can make an impact.
The player you like going against the most?
I appreciate going against him the most. He always gives a great challenge, and it's a great battle. I owe him.
After your interception, there was quite the choreographed celebration. Right. But so the other two don't have that. Is there someone that says, "Okay, we're going to do it now"?
Literally, I was about to jog to the sideline, and Tart came up. He was like, "Let's go. We got to do the end zone picture thing." And I was like, "He's been trying to get it done since at the beginning of the season, and we never get it done." And I was like, okay, I'm just going to run over here and do it. You guys just get everybody else. And he got everybody else. So I just sat down and was like, did they get there? All right, cool. Perfect. Let's do it.
Is that practice in practice, or
we don't practice it. The wideouts practice theirs. Now, they got more time. You never know when you're going to get an interception. It may come week 2. It may come 10 weeks from now. So, it takes – and then defensive players, we're such meatheads sometimes that guys are just running all over the place. It's not like you can which guy's going to be where. You're like, hey, guys, come. Oh, all right. So you're there? Okay, you're doing backflips? All right, let me just jog to the sideline then.
I just had a Patrick Peterson question for you. You talked about how elite cornerbacks should be judged based on their consistency over the years. How would you rank yourself against Patrick, and what kind of a cornerback is he?
He's a great. I think he's a guy that came in with me, and obviously we've come in together and always been compared and contrast. In this division, obviously we've had many battles, and I think he's a great. He'll be remembered in this game forever, and it's obviously you got to play at a high level. I think our class might be one of the greatest classes ever to come through the NFL. Obviously the classes that already have Hall of Famers have their stuff, but if you just looked at the guys drafted in our class, I think we got J.J. Watt, Cam Newton, Julio, A.J., Pat P., Tyron Smith. It's a ton of guys. Myself, Chris Harris Jr., Doug, DeMarco Murray. It's a bunch of guys that have made a great impact, and Pat has made a tremendous impact as well. And I think he'll be remembered as one of the greats. I think he's made the Pro Bowl every year he's been in the league. So you get jackets for that.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.